Aubrey Plaza's voice trembles ever so slightly, not with overt weakness, but in the measured cadence of someone who has carried a profound weight for too long. It's August 2025, 7 long months since the catastrophic day when her husband, acclaimed filmmaker Jeff Baena, died by suicide on January 3rd, 2025, at the age of 47. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office confirmed the cause of death as suicide by hanging, and authorities ruled out foul play. The silence that followed had been deafening. Plaza, ever private, withdrew from the public eye. She skipped presenting at the Golden Globe Awards and released only a joint statement with Baena's family, calling his passing an unimaginable tragedy and pleading for privacy. But now, on her friend Amy Poehler's Good Hang podcast, Plaza speaks for the first time, not to interrogate, but to remember, not to explain, but to feel. She begins simply, right in this very, very present moment. I feel happy to be with you. A bitter sweetness drips from the words, acknowledgement that grief doesn't render one inert, even while it thrums beneath every interaction. Overall, I'm here, she continues. I'm functioning. I feel really grateful to be moving through the world. Yet the candour arrives in quiet contrast to her opening line. I think I'm okay, but it's like a daily struggle, obviously. Here, in these few sentences, lies the heart of what grief truly is. Not an eruption, but a relentless hum. It doesn't disappear, it becomes a presence. This moment of speaking marks something beyond mere publicity. It is a reclamation of voice. Aubrey Plaza, known for her stoic deadpan humour and ironic poise, now chooses vulnerability. It is brave, it is raw, and it is human. To understand the enormity of Plaza's grief, one must first grasp the depth of her relationship with Jeff Baena. They met in 2011, a convergence of minds and hearts at a seemingly ordinary game night hosted by Baena. And yet, the ordinary quickly unravelled into something extraordinary. Jeff's invitation to improv and creativity, to intellectual play and emotional openness found a match in Aubrey's unique spark. Their relationship blossomed over shared art, shared laughter, shared creation. Baena wrote and directed, Plaza performed and produced. They collaborated on Life After Beth, The Little Hours, Spin Me Round, their creative bond as strong as their romantic one. In May 2021, after nearly a decade together and a discreet engagement hidden from public view, they married in a low-key ceremony, tie-dye pyjamas and all. The image of the couple in matching tie-dye pyjamas, spontaneous, playful, authentic, would later surface as a symbol of their love, capturing the spirit of their union. During their marriage, each remained fiercely independent, yet deeply connected. That connection, forged in trust, art, and relentless affection, is what makes the loss feel not just personal, but fundamental. The couple's separation in September 2024, months before his death, adds another layer of complexity. Though living apart, Plaza relocating to New York, their emotional bond persisted. Records show that Plaza received a text from Baena just 3 hours before he died, and they spoke by phone the night before, evidence that their emotional tether endured, even in distance. It was a subtle fracture, but not a severance. Still, it cast the tragedy in richer, more heartbreaking relief. Through these years of shared creativity and laughter, they built a world together. One defined not by fame, but by a private intimacy that sometimes leaks into the public eye unintentionally. The suddenness of his passing ripped that intimacy from the world, yet Plaza's opening comments remind us that their life, and her memory of it, remains. There is a haunting image that Plaza shares, one that refuses to leave the listener's mind long after the interview ends. She likens her grief to the 2025 sci-fi horror film The Gorge. In that movie, characters stand on cliffs opposite a chasm, surveilled by grotesque, monstrous forms within the abyss. She pauses, with a self-aware smile. This is a really dumb analogy, and it was kind of a joke at a certain point, but I actually mean it. The gorge, with its steep drops and inhabitants of dread, these stand in for her grief. An ocean of awfulness lies beneath, invisible yet inevitable. Sometimes she wants to dive in. Sometimes she only gazes. Sometimes she jams the panic button in her mind and tries to escape. But always, she notes, it's there. Here is grief, not as a tide, but as a terrain. Cavernous, alive, full of unsettling shapes and slow air. It's not something one endures, it's something one navigates. The analogy captures how grief is often physical, spatial, psychological, something felt in one's bones, not only in one's heart. Audibly, Plaza's voice does not tremble in terror. Rather, it settles on that edge and simply, bravely speaks the truth. That image, the gorge, is one that will linger long after. Inside that metaphor, though, lies a glimmer of resilience. She can see it, she can articulate it, and she can inhabit the world alongside it. That is not healing, it is survival. And sometimes, survival is more than enough. Even as grief shadows every moment, Plaza speaks of lifelines, pockets of solace that have kept her tethered to the world, because grief doesn't wholly sever one's connection to life, especially when friends, animals and projects still resonate with value. She credits her rescue dog, Frankie, for being more than a pet, a therapy companion, a presence that listens without judgment. Poehler remarks, "Frankie's like your therapy dog now." It's a poignant line, one that doesn't dismiss her grief, but honours the small suckers that punctuate the void. On stage, during her first public appearance after Baena's passing, the SNL 50th anniversary special, Plaza wore a tie-dye shirt. Far from a fashion choice, it was a quiet tribute, an echo of her wedding attire, a nod to the extraordinary, ordinary moments they shared. As cameras rolled, she held herself upright, not in bravado, but in acceptance of the complexity of grief. That sometimes the best you can do is show up. Wu describes her grief as a daily struggle, but Plaza doesn't let it define every moment. She expresses gratitude for being able to move through the world, to feel happiness in fleeting connections, to engage with the people who remain. There are days when laughter, soft, surprising laughter, breaks through. There are days when she notices the sun, or the colour of the sky, or the way Frankie tilts his head. These are not full victories. They are quiet, brittle lights, brushed by fingertips, but enough to remind her that life persists, that grief can coexist with fragile joy. What does healing look like, if such a word is even appropriate in describing grief of this magnitude? Plaza doesn't talk of closure. She talks of quiet endurance, of showing up, of telling the truth, of remembering. She doesn't speak of forgetting or of moving on, but of finding new ways to hold memory without being held hostage by it. Grief, she seems to say, is not a burden to shed, but a path to walk. A path that may dim over time, but that remains part of the landscape. In her voice, one hears a determination not to vanish. She continues to work. Her film Honey Don't releases soon, and other projects loom. But beneath each role lies the shadow of what was lost, and the presence of what remains. The invitation she extends implicitly to those listening is not to pity, but to accompany, to acknowledge that grief is complex and endless, and yet sometimes possible to carry, curve by curve. She ends with gratitude to her close friends who bring laughter and care, to the listener who dared to hear, to the world that still permits breath. And underneath all that, a plea she had made 7 months earlier and repeats now. Please respect our privacy, because grieving is not a spectacle. It is not entertainment. It is the work of the heart, and it is deeply personal. In this first public reckoning, her voice offers something rare. Grief-given words, held in grace, shared not as a story of victimhood, but as an invitation to understand that healing is less about overcoming and more about walking on, step by step, with the memory of love held close. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more celebrity gists.